I bought a vacation mobile home almost 2 months ago. It's a complete shack with 2 small bedrooms, a little living room, a kitchen, and 1 bathroom. It's meant to be a peaceful escape from the city, either for myself or maybe with a girlfriend someday. The property is spacious, with 2 acres of land, and one of its main appeals is that it's only a 10-minute drive from a mountain, where I like to go snowboarding a few times a year. During my first visit, my family and I decorated the place. We went to a local furniture outlet, picked out a few couches, and managed to set everything up in one weekend, thanks to my dad's pickup truck. While we were unloading and setting up, our closest neighbor, Dale, came over to introduce himself. He had a thick Hudson Valley accent and a manner different from what we city folks are used to, but he seemed nice enough at first. We chatted for a bit, and he lingered for a while, watching us work. Eventually, he said goodbye and walked back up the road to his home. 2 weeks later, I returned alone to bring more stuff, like my snowboarding gear, and to set up the Wi-Fi. Dale must have seen my car pass by because shortly after I arrived, he knocked on the open door and stepped inside, saying hello. I smiled and invited him in, although he was already inside. After some small talk, he invited me over for a beer. I agreed and followed him to his mobile home, which was slightly bigger than mine. We sat on his deck, and he brought me a Heineken. As we talked, I tried to get to know him better. He mentioned he'd been there for 20 years, too long, as he put it. His responses to my questions were pessimistic yet somewhat joking. Then he started asking me questions about why I was there and where I was from. I told him I was from Queens and that I wanted a place to escape and snowboard. This answer seemed to irritate him, and he began ranting about city folks coming in and ruining things, littering, and polluting the area. Our conversation turned into a heated debate, with him raising his voice and getting visibly angry. At one point, he shouted, "I don't know why y'all can't just stay where the fuck you belong." With a forced smile, I stood up and said, "Okay, I think I'm going to head back now. Thanks for the beer." He didn't respond, just looked down at his drink. As I walked away, he yelled out, "I'm sorry." I looked back and gave him a thumbs up, but I was horrified that this was going to be my neighbor. That night, while lying on the mattress watching a movie on my laptop, I heard a voice outside. It sounded like someone talking to themselves, cursing. I looked out the window but couldn't see anyone. It was too dark. The property is mostly woods, and it was freaky hearing a voice out there. The next day, Dale knocked on my door around midday, calling my name. I stayed in my room, not wanting to deal with him. He kept knocking for about 5 minutes, even saying, "I know you're in there. Your car is here." This freaked me out. He finally left, or so I thought. That night, I heard a voice outside again, even over the TV. I turned off the TV and looked outside but saw nothing. I went out to the deck and flicked on the light, seeing Dale standing about 5 feet into the woods. He ran into the woods when the light hit him. I went back inside, considering calling 911. I called my dad, and he advised against it, saying that calling the cops on a neighbor would make me not want to show my face there again. I tried to sleep, but within an hour, Dale was outside, screaming angrily, "City piece of shit. I know you're in there. Leave, no one wants you here." He sounded drunk and furious. This was the moment I realized my neighbor was a complete psychopath, and possibly the reason I got the home at such a good price. I left the next day, taking my valuables with me, and haven't been back since. Next time, I'll go with my whole family. If Dale keeps it up, the cops will be called. I'm considering selling the place if this continues because I'm actually scared to go up there alone. When I was 7, my family and I lived in a rough neighborhood. Our neighbor on one side was a total creep and unfriendly. I don't remember much because I was too young, but my mom remembers it all too well. One night, it was just my mom, my two siblings, and me at home. My dad was away on a business trip, as he often was. Around midnight, someone started knocking on our door. My mom woke up, went to the front door, and asked who it was, but no one answered. She thought maybe it was some kids playing ding-dong ditch, so she went back to bed. About 30 minutes later, the knocking started again. She got up and peered through the side window to see if she could spot anyone, but no one was there. In a better neighborhood, this might have been dismissed as kids playing a prank, but in our area, you couldn't assume anything but the worst. My mom started to worry, so she went back to her room, grabbed my dad's shotgun, and sat in the living room in the dark, waiting. She didn't wake us up because we were little kids and she didn't want to panic us. While she was in the living room, the knocking started again. She got up to peer through the window, expecting to see someone, but still, no one was there. My mom began shouting at whoever it was, threatening to call the cops and to shoot if anyone tried to come in. This legitimate threat apparently worked because the knocking stopped. Sometime between then and the police arriving, my mom woke us up just to be safe. Around 2 in the morning, the police showed up and did a quick search outside our house while we waited inside. After their search, they came in and told my mom they had found a piece of barbed wire, about 4 feet long, next to the front door. They asked if it belonged to her, but she said it wasn't hers. The cop told her it likely belonged to whoever was knocking, and that they were probably planning to strangle her with it when she opened the door. The police said she was very smart not to open the door, as it could have cost her life. They promised to patrol the neighborhood until morning and do a thorough investigation once it was daylight. The next morning, during their search, they found footprints leading to the back of the house, to my bedroom window. They also found nicks in the windowsill where the person had tried to pry open the window but failed. My mom always suspected it was our creepy neighbor because she often caught him staring into our house through his curtains. He was incredibly creepy and unfriendly all around, and he would be the first to know when my dad wasn't home since he knew what vehicle my dad drove. Not long after that, we moved out of that neighborhood, thank God.